Hi everyone, Ford here from Son of a Stitch, and welcome back to SonovaStitchToob. This is the third series in our series of videos on cross-stitch basics. In episode 1, I gave you a cross-stitch pattern and I taught you how to read it. In episode 2, I showed you how to use the information from that pattern to determine how big your project is going to end up. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how to determine where to start on your fabric and show you how to get that fabric loaded up into an embroidery hoop to get started. So the materials that you should have would be an embroidery hoop. I'm using a 4-inch one for this project, but anything that's that big or larger should work fine. The fabric that we cut during the last episode, and your pattern, either on a screen or printed out like mine is. Of course, you probably also want to have a beer handy. It is called craft beer. So let's just go ahead and switch to an overhead view right now, and I'll show you how to get this taken care of. Okay, so we've got all of our materials assembled here. We've got our pattern and our fabric and our hoop. So first thing we're going to do is take a close look at the pattern here. Now, it's almost universal that with the patterns, and this is true all of mine and most good designers, there are indications here that tell you where the center of each axis is. So you've got the center of your vertical axis marked here with this little triangle, and you've got the center of your horizontal marked here with this little triangle. So at the intersection of the two lines that are indicated there, that's where the center of our pattern is. The general wisdom is that you want to start at or near the center of your pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark the center point there so that I don't have to keep scanning along those lines to figure out where that is. So most people will recommend that you start at the center of your pattern. Now, I don't suggest that you need to start at the exact center of your pattern, but start within a decent, easy, close counting distance of your pattern. Complete a full figure, for instance. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to start here and complete this whole line, and that will be the first thing that I'll stitch on this pattern. So now what we need to do is figure out where that is going to correspond to on our fabric. So the easiest way to find the center of a piece of fabric is going to be to fold it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a needle handy here, and I'm going to fold my fabric in half one way. I'm going to fold my fabric in half the other way, and the point of that fold is going to be the center of my fabric, or near enough to it as makes no difference, because we gave ourselves plenty of extra space by not cutting it super small, right? So I'm just going to put my needle in and out at the center point of the fabric. So now I know what spot corresponds to this center starting point. So now I can go ahead and get my fabric loaded up into my hoop. A lot of people will use a washable marker or something else like that. But I don't have those, and I'm too lazy to get them. So this is my method. Now what we're going to want to do next is take this hoop and open it up all the way. We're not going to remove the screw, but we're going to keep opening it up until the screw is embedded into the nut there. So that's as loose as this hoop gets. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the inside of our hoop on the table. We're going to put the face of our fabric here, and we're gonna put the back of the hoop on there and just smash it down on. Now we'll start to tighten this down, pulling this out so we don't get a little fold there at the pinch point. And then from there you're gonna just tighten it down as far as you can, and then tug the fabric to make a nice tight surface here. Now, one thing that you might notice here is that I called this the face of the project. Usually when you see somebody using an embroidery hoop, they're holding it like this and stitching on this surface, this being the top. I always hold it like this and stitch on the inside of the hoop. There are a number of reasons for that, some of which won't make sense to you if I explain them to you right now, but they will make sense in the next episode. But for right now, the thing that really makes a difference is when I hold it this way, the places where my fingers are touching the fabric right here are on the back of my fabric. Any project that you do, no matter how clean you keep your hands, oils from your fingers get into the fabric and they will discolor it, and they're very, very difficult to wash out. So using this method, at the very least right now, means that I touch my fabric less, my fabric gets less dirty, and my project looks cleaner and neater when I'm done. Alright, so now that we've got our fabric loaded up into our hoop and our starting point marked off, next time we're going to go ahead and thread the needle and get started on stitching this project. You can find my other patterns in my store at sonovastitch.etsy.com. You can also find me on Facebook at SonovaStitchXS or on Instagram at SonovaStitch. Soon I'll have a Patreon that will allow you to throw some change at the dancing monkey if you'd like to. But until then, I'll see you next time.